I feel like I'm at like a lecture for school. Hello friends, welcome to today's video. Thank you so much for your time to watch this video. I hope you're doing well with whatever you're doing and whenever you're watching this. So today's video is quite lengthy, as you can see, but it is full of information and just great quality content about the CEP and CRP programs at the Walt Disney Resort, specifically for Canadian participants. So this year when the 2024 CEP applications were going out, I noticed there were just a lot of questions and people didn't really know the answers to. Facebook groups are specifically a really good place to go for information regarding Disney programs, but I thought there was a little bit of a gap and that I could provide a video that might give some good information for the future. So I recruited participants over on my Instagram at Ashley Smashley on Instagram, and I got some great responses. I have 4 CEP participants that participated in 2022 and 2023 programs, as well as 1 CRP participant who was in our first group of returning Canadian Pavilion representatives. Essentially, what I really wanted this video to do was give a opportunity for previous participants to share their experience, to hopefully help out future participants, whether you're doing a CEP, CRP, maybe even an AEP just for general knowledge. But yeah, we talk about everything from the application process to moving to Florida and living in Florida, as well as experience in their roles, locations, and general daily work lives. Because this video is so long, I will do my best to split everything up into chapters. There are quite a bit of questions, and it is long, but I do believe that this is a really information-rich video. So I hope that if you are applying or you are waiting to go on your Disney program, I really hope that this is a great video to get you off on the right foot, to just have some great content to feel encouraged by, and get you excited for your Disney program. I really want to say thank you to Austen, Laura, Milana, Caden, and Maria for all participating in these Q&As. They have some fantastic information, some information that I didn't even think of, which is why it's so awesome just to have a variety of participants to give you your best shot at having a fantastic program and just starting off strong and confident. Well, that is enough said. I hope you enjoy this video. Again, if you have specific questions, you can look in the chapters of this video and find the information that is most relevant to you. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy, and thank you for watching. If you want to start by introducing yourself, where you're from, where you participated in a Disney program, and what your roles were, that would be great.
Of course, my name is Austen. I'm from Toronto, Canada.
All right, so my name's Laura, and I'm from Ottawa, Ontario.
Hi, I'm Milana. I'm from Niagara Falls, Canada.
So I'm Caden Bennett from London, Ontario, Canada.
Well, my name is Maria. I'm from London, Ontario in Canada.
I'm a 2-time program alumnus, so I did the 2022 program and a 2023 program. My 2022 program, I was at mini golf. It's classified as an attraction. I don't really agree with that categorization after working there, but it is what it is. And in 2023, I was at the Emporium, which is merchandise, obviously, and that was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life, and I loved it so much.
I did the 2023 Disney Cultural Exchange Program, and I had the role of merchandise, and I worked at the Emporium in Magic Kingdom.
I participated in the cultural exchange program last summer 2023. My home location was Harambe Market in Animal Kingdom. I was in quick service food and beverage.
My first program was this past summer, in the summer of 2023. My home location was Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, and I worked in custodial guest services.
I did the Culture Representative program in the year 2022 to 2023. Yeah, I was there for the full year, and I was a merchandise cast member in the Canada Pavilion, and I loved it very much.
So how did you first hear about Disney programs, and what made you want to participate in a Disney program?
Oh my God. It wasn't like it was a joke at first. Like for me, it was like a mistake. Like
I kind of always known about, like, especially the American Disney College program, but the Canadian one I really discovered through like different YouTubers and also sort of word of mouth, and also researching because I heard about the American one and I'm like, I'm gonna find a way that I'm gonna be able to do this.
It was my dream growing up to work at Disney after I went there when I was 10. And then when I got older, I just searched it up.
So from a young age, I grew up visiting with family on vacations here and there. I'd heard about the American college programs and things like that, and just started to do my research, hear about things from friends, and then learned about the cultural exchange program we have for the international participants. And it was something I had my sights set on from my early days in high school, sort of thing. When I found out about it, it was something I knew I wanted to do at some point in my life.
I think it was like January 2022, and I was just like looking online at stuff about Disney and just stuff relating to like the summer, because I wanted to do something, and I saw Disney International Programs. I watched a few videos about the CEP, and I was just like, that's something I really want to do, but it had not come back since COVID started in 2020. So I was like, I'll just put myself in for the email notifications and see what happens. I didn't really expect to hear anything, and then we didn't hear anything until April. So I think, it was April in 2022. And when I got the email, I was like, I forgot about it after I'd submitted the notifications. I just completely forgot I even did it, because I thought like, oh, this is like a shot in the dark. It's never going to happen. They're not even going to open it. And if they do open it, I'm not going to get in.
Well, I actually first learned about it when I was about 7 years old. I was in the Canada Pavilion, and we had, my family growing up, we were annual pass holders. Like, I was very lucky to visit the parks very frequently, my favorite place on earth. But one of our neighbors had a friend, and she knew we were going to Disney, and she was like, oh, I have a friend who's working there right now. You should go say hello. So she was in the Canada Pavilion. I believe she was working the popcorn cart. And we went over and said hello to her, and she was so excited to like meet friends from home. But I remember in that moment, like I still remember all these years, it just kind of clicked for me, like, wait, like Canadians can work in my favorite place. It has just always been my biggest dream. Like, it was just always this thing pushing me forward and the biggest goal of mine. Also the CRP specifically, because I think it's such a wonderful opportunity to get to represent Canada as cast members. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that later on with other questions, I'm sure. But yeah, it was just so important to me. So yeah, I learned about it a long time ago.
I also knew that it's really good hands-on job experience and looks really good on resumes and things like that. And then I'm someone who like loves traveling, so I really wanted that experience of living and working in another country and getting to meet new people and experiencing that whole side of it too.
Yeah, for me, it just started off like a complete like non-serious thing, and then turned into something I really enjoy. So I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. So a happy accident is what I like to call it.
And what was your application process like for your Disney program? How long did it take for you to hear back about any progress? And then how long until you got the job?
So it's a stressful process. I will say that at first, especially if it's your first time applying, because you don't really know what you're getting yourself into in terms of the waiting game and a lot of things. That's why the group chats are so helpful. But in terms of how long we waited in 2022, I believe it was a very fast process that year, because we started in June, and the applications opened I think late April or mid-April. So they really had to fast track us like immediately. So that year, if you applied, I'm pretty sure no one really got denied. It was a really easy year to get in. So lucky for me, that's the year I applied. Yeah, it was a really like fast tracked like application process. Like, it was like roll checklist, interview, great, going to Florida in a month.
Yeah, so it was definitely, I would say, like semi-stressful. Like, there was a lot of like kind of like that butterfly feeling. I also, the 2023 group was the second group back after COVID, so things were kind of different. But I applied on December 13th of 2022. I found out I had an interview on January 5th. I got the offer for the interview, and then my interview was on January 10th. So, and then I got my letter of offer on January 24th. So it was like about 5 weeks, which was very quick, but I was still super nervous. I knew it was I really thought it was kind of a long shot. But yeah, so the process was pretty streamlined, and it was really quick last year, which was kind of nice.
We just had to make a resume and a cover letter, and it was like fairly easy, to be honest, because I already had a resume like built for like university and stuff. And then the cover letter was fairly easy as well. I just put why I wanted to work in Disney, and I put like my skills and qualifications and stuff like that.
I'm trying to think. We didn't hear back until almost early January that we had interviews, and we had a very short turnaround time of about under a week for those interviews. So it was a little bit of a scramble for a lot of us, especially first timers who had that no experience, because this was the first time they were doing them in person again since COVID. So there was definitely a bit of panic amongst the participants at that point in time.
When I applied, I was like, oh, it's going to be easy again. I'm gonna get in. It ended up being that way, but I got waitlisted. One of the unlucky people who got waitlisted, and it was 2 weeks of, let me just say, hell. It was horrible. It was the worst experience, one of the worst experiences of my life. People, had their interviews, and after my interview, I think a lot of people do this. I was like, oh my God, like I messed up. It was horrible. I didn't say what I wanted to say. Like everyone does that, but like that was me. And then that only further was implemented in my brain when I got waitlisted for 2 weeks, and it was a group of us, and it seemed really random. I still to this day don't know why I got waitlisted. I'm not saying like I should have been in automatically, but like I still want a reason why. I'm not sure if it was like a random thing, but yeah, I was waitlisted for 2 weeks. It was a really bad experience. I was really scared I wasn't going to get in, and it was 2 weeks of just waiting, and I was doing like the math to see like who got it, who accepted the offer, who denied the offer. I was reaching out to everybody. It was a nightmare. So yeah, if you get waitlisted, I don't know, but for me it was not fun. So, but just it's important to keep a positive mindset and just keep your head in the game, like you're going to get in. But yeah, I guess it varies every single year, the timeline. This year, from what I'm hearing, it's much crazier than the past years. So I'm kind of happy I'm not an applicant this year. But yeah.
So I was actually really lucky to be in the very first group that came back after COVID. So I first went to the interview in 2019. So it was a very long waiting because of that. I know we all knew that struggle, but it was so worth it. My example will probably be, I'm sure it'll be very different than what it is now, but I'll tell you my long saga. I first applied online at disneycruise.com. I think it was like March 2019. And then I didn't hear anything for a couple months, which I think is still pretty standard for any program. And then I moved in consideration in, I think, about June. I noticed I didn't get any sort of email or anything. I just was checking Disney Cruise, as we all do. And then in July, I got an email inviting me to an in-person interview in Toronto in August 2019. So I went to that. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was actually at like one of the Disney offices there, so it was very cool. I loved my recruiters. They were wonderful. And it was just so cool, such a cool experience. And then after that, they told us that it would be a little bit of a waiting process. And what we learned, and I think my group was the first that they've been doing this, but I think it's a bit more common now. They started just kind of releasing it in waves, like based on your arrival date. So the people who were going to be arriving in January were the first to hear. So I ended up waiting about 6 months for my interview to get my offer, which was rough because I was so stressed and hopeful the whole time. But I ended up getting my offer for August 2020 in February 2020. So yeah, about 6 months after my interview. And it was great. And then, like a month later, the world fell apart. So that was great. But then everyone, as we all remember, everyone got all the emails saying like the program's going to be temporarily delayed. And then what was that? Like a good 2 years later. But I was very lucky because since I had my acceptance, I basically got, when the programs came back, it was such an exciting day. Like I remember like I was still sleeping when the news broke. So I woke up to my phone like blowing up and all my friends were like texting me and calling me and freaking out because they knew how important this was to me. So yeah, it was a very emotional day. But that day I got the email from Disney inviting me to submit my application again. And then I was among the first to like get my interview. And then I think that we didn't hear anything for like a little bit, but thankfully not as long as the first time. So I think by May 2022, I had my offer for August 1st, and then I went. So yeah, it was a very long, like, experience. But, you know, I think one of the biggest things I learned from all of it, especially with how incredible my program was and everything that came out of it, everything happens for a reason and everything happens when it's meant to. So I really think, obviously no one wanted the pandemic and I wish we could have undid that, but I do think the timing and everything worked out much better for me anyway. So happy ending.
Can you describe your moving process for us? How did you travel to Florida? Was it seamless or difficult? And how did you emotionally process moving away from home?
I did the program when I had just finished my first year of university. So I'd already kind of been living away from home for 9 months. So that I'd already been doing, so that wasn't a crazy transition for me. So it almost kind of felt seamless to kind of just keep doing it through the summer. So I'd say that didn't affect me that much, especially I like Flamingo Crossings Village is quite similar to like a university dorm environment. So that was not a crazy adjustment. And I flew down by myself. So like I crossed the border and everything all by myself. And I was super, super excited. I'm pretty comfortable with travel and stuff, so I was never really that nervous. And I think emotionally it was also a bit easier because I'd already been moving away from home, so like that wasn't too scary for me. And I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into. I think being a part of the Facebook groups and kind of already having met some people made that transition easier because I kind of knew what to expect. And I knew that there'd be people down there in the same boat as me, so it kind of helped expose me to some of that before I actually got there.
So I flew to Florida from Buffalo because I'm like 5 minutes from the border. So it was like quicker for me to get to Buffalo Airport than Toronto Airport. It was easy to get there. I met up with my friend Laura and Jessica when I got to Orlando, and we all Ubered together to a hotel near Flamingo Crossings for the night because we had to move in the next morning. I was a bit all over the place when I got to Orlando because I've never been away from home before. So I had like anxiety and like I was nauseous and couldn't sleep all week. But I was fine after, so it's okay.
Well, I know for a lot of people it's a tough transition. I was very lucky to have my girlfriend who was going down on the program with me participating. So we were able to drive down together with her dad. We drove down. It took us about a day and a half. We stopped overnight. But driving down was definitely a lot more fun, I think, than if we were to be flying. Just it would be a little more rushed in that sense, whereas we were able to take our time, get down there, and sort of just settle into it. And it was nice having someone there, especially my girlfriend of 3 years at the time. We're coming up on 4 now, so it's nice having that emotional support, having that something constant that you had. So for others, I know it's really tough, especially for myself. It was my first time moving out from home. So for a lot of people, that can be a really tough time. Emotionally, you feel distant from your family at first, and it's a tough process. You're half a continent away. Like you're so far, and I can't imagine for those people who are out in BC or even farther up north, who are even further away from their family in Florida. I was lucky to have family who were able to visit me sort of thing throughout the summer. It's definitely something you have to be emotionally prepared to do. There's some sacrifices that come with it. But in the day and age we live in with technology, you're able to communicate and contact with family, and people are understanding. They understand you want to do these things. They make the time and effort to help you out. I mean, a tough part I know for some people, especially myself, was leaving the pets behind because they don't grasp that concept. They just think you're gone. They don't know what happened to you. So that was a tough part, especially.
It was daunting, but not so much so because I think, as I had said, like this is something I've been wanting to do, like practice in my whole life. So I felt like I was just so ready and excited. But I think the most daunting thing was obviously moving to a different country. Like there's a lot of different things. Like the American healthcare system is very different from ours. So I think I was stressed about a lot of like the technical things behind it, like getting health insurance. I mean, because I was so excited to do it, it wasn't too scary, but I remember just being on the plane, like I did take a plane. Yeah, backtrack. I flew down with me and my big suitcases just by myself. And then I met up with my roommate, who I'd be living with at Flamingo there. So that was nice. But some people drove down from Canada. I think we're really lucky that if you do have the option to drive, I don't have a personal car, so I wasn't planning on doing that, but a lot of people did. So yeah, once again, just all personal choice of travel method, whatever works best for you. Disney does, after 3 months for the CRP, because they're considered full-time cast members, you can get the Disney health insurance. But those 3 months, if anything goes wrong. So some people got travel insurance for 3 months and then signed up for the Disney one. I personally just thought I'll get the full year one just in case, because it was a little difficult before going to the program. I couldn't really find anything online ahead of time about what the Disney insurance plan covered. Once we got there were resources to find them, but I was just worried because you had to get the travel insurance before going to America. So I figured it would be better just in case for me to get travel insurance. But that's a personal choice, so it's whatever you're comfortable with. I know lots of people who did it the other way, and they were very happy with it. Some people even took a chance and were like, I'll wait 3 months and then do the Disney one. So once again, all personal choice.
2022 was my first time, living away from home. That was my first time really not I think the most I lived away from home was like sleepaway camp for like a week when I was 12. So this was like a really big jump. Like in the 2022 program for me was a really big shift in my life because it actually was my first time actually really being independent, because when you're at sleepaway camp, there's counselors, looking after you. You're not really independent. This is like, you're kind of thrown to Florida, you're kind of by yourself, you have to make it work. It was a big shift. I got driven down by my dad that year. So that was really, really great. That was a great way to kind of segue into, going to Florida. I think flying down would have been a little bit stressful just personally for me. But yeah, it was really good. Going down there was a great drive. I get there and I was able to carry a lot of my things in the car with us. So that was really, really helpful for me. And then, 2023, I flew down with my cousin, and it was a little bit more stressful because, just I think flying in general is just a lot more stressful. And I think just emotionally preparing, in 2022 for me, it was just like a complete, it was so out of my comfort zone, which I think is something that I'm not really a person who usually does things outside of his comfort zone. I kind of have to stay in my comfort zone, but I was at a point where I was like, I can't sit here all summer. I have to go do something and just see what happens. Because I went down there in 2022 and I didn't know anybody. I knew like one person going down, that was it. You just naturally kind of adjust and make friends, at least I did. And mentally it was just a complete I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna see what happens. When I got there, I was scared out of my mind. I was like, oh my god, I'm not anybody, people are gonna hate me, I'm gonna lose it, I don't know how I'm gonna survive these 2 months. But I think for me it was just kind of making myself believe that I'd be okay and just putting my foot in the door, because I was like, you know what, in a year from now, am I gonna be upset that I didn't go and do this? Because these 2 months, they may feel like forever right now, but they're not gonna last forever. It's gonna be over. You're gonna be leaving one day from here and you're gonna go back to your regular life. Right. So being a little bit uncomfortable at first is not a bad thing. It shows that you're experiencing something new, that you're putting yourself into a new situation, which is a good thing. It helps you grow and help me grow. So I think 2022 was more of I don't know if I'm gonna like this, I'm kind of nervous. 2023 was more, okay, I can do this now. I have more people I know now. So mentally it was a lot easier to go down there and do it. So yeah, I think it just varies the kind of person that you are and how you handle situations like this and how comfortable you are living away from home with not a lot of support.
What was your experience with now having roommates like?
It was also my first time having roommates, so it was a new experience for me. But I was with Aurelia, my one friend. We linked together. So I was supposed to be with Ashley initially, and then Aurelia and Morgan were supposed to be together, but we had different end dates, so we just swapped. So I felt comfortable because I'd met Aurelia before. So it's I was going into the process knowing my roommate. I was just excited to meet her and know her further because we weren't close friends yet. And then I had another roommate from Ecuador and another roommate from England, so that was cool because I learned a lot about Ecuador, which I didn't know before. She, my roommate, she told me stuff. And then I didn't really see my other two roommates that often, just because we were all busy working and stuff. I mostly see them at night or in the morning. when we were going to or coming home from work. But I was like really close to Aurelia, which was like my direct roommate in my 2x2. Like we were like really close friends. We hung out all summer, so that was fun. But overall, the roommate experience was like good for me. Like I hear some like horror stories of people with like messy roommates and like rude roommates, and I didn't have any of that. My roommates were lovely, so I had a good experience.
So in the type of apartment I had in Flamingo, it was actually super similar to my dorm, which is what I'd already been doing for like 8 or 9 months. So, I shared a bathroom with I was in what they call a 4x2. So in the unit, there were 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Everybody has their own room. Everybody shares a bathroom with one other person. For me, that wasn't really actually an issue at all, like sharing the bathroom. My roommate and I were both really clean, so that was never an issue. I'd say if it's definitely something you can get used to, and it's an adjustment if you're not used to it. But it's definitely possible. I mean, like the units are beautiful at Flamingo, so like the kitchens are super nice and the living room and everything. And I think it's like not to force it. Like it's really great if you're best friends with your roommate, but even if you're not, like you can coexist, and it's not that hard. It really isn't that scary.
Yeah, it was great. I was actually really lucky. My roommate Allie reached out to me through the Facebook group because she was also from London. And so it was nice. We were able to kind of like meet up ahead of time and get to know each other. We got the 4x2 room option, so our own room, but we shared a bathroom, which was my first choice of room style. So I was very happy with that. I got very lucky because they're not too easy to come by. But yeah, it was really nice. Allie was great. We also had another roommate from Canada, Brooke. So it was really nice getting to know everyone. And then because we were there for the full year, our one other roommate it kind of felt like we had a little bit of a revolving door because their programs were a bit shorter. So when we first got there, there were actually 2 people already in there. One thing I will say that I wasn't really expecting about coming into Flamingo was I didn't realize that there was a chance that people could already be in your apartment. So when I got there, we opened, like I was expecting like an empty apartment. Like I had roommate gifts for everybody. I was like, oh, we're all going to be starting our program at the same time. It'll be great because that's kind of what you just hear about before. But we got there and I was like someone was living there. So it was crazy. There were 2 girls living there already. They were almost done their DCP. So they were very nice. I didn't get to know them very well because they were only there for about a month of my program. And as everyone knows, like your schedules just get so busy. Sometimes you never even see your roommate. But yeah, and then after that, we kind of just had like a little bit of a revolving door of roommates. So it was nice getting to know people when I did see them. But yeah, I'd say it was a really good experience. I love the layout of Flamingo apartments. Even like James, my fiance, had a 2x2, and he had great roommates as well. But I noticed that Flamingo does a really amazing job with the 2x2s, like still giving you your own space. Like you get your own sink, the bathroom's a good size, your own personal space is in the bedroom. Like it's a really good layout.
So I've been lucky to have a 4x2 every single time I've done the program. I'm very lucky to have that. So I always chose gender inclusive housing because I kind of strategically did that because I felt like I have a better chance of getting a 4x2 if I did gender inclusive housing because there's not as many of them as there are, the same house, like the same gender housing. I didn't link with anybody my first year. So it was a complete shot in the dark. I was at West and it was, I think another really important thing is like you will most likely barely ever see your roommates. Like you guys will have completely different schedules, like completely different. Like the people who are there already have probably been there for months. They have their own schedule, they're out of training, they're doing their own thing. I think, if you have a bad relationship with a roommate, I think the best way is just to you don't have to be around them unless you're in a 2x2 with them, which I think they can do something. Flamingo can do some kind of accommodation if it's really bad. But like I remember my roommate this year, oh my God, he threw a party at like 3 a.m. and woke me and my cousin up. And it was like he was new, he was a CRP, and he woke us up in the middle of the night. It was just like, literally, I tell you, screaming, blaring loud music. Like it was like, I was like, who is this guy? And what is he doing in my house? Like, it was horrible. And then he eats our cookies. But anyways, yeah, just knowing how to manage the social relationship between you and your roommate, who you may not be getting along with. Just go in there and just completely just be nice. And I think the scariest part for me, I think for anybody, especially if you're not linked to someone, is opening that door on the first day and you have no clue who's going to be behind there. You have no clue what's behind that door. It could be your best friend, it could be your worst enemy, like for the whole summer. You have no idea. I think that's what scared me the first time. And the second time, I was like, I don't know. When I'm about to open this door, I don't know what's behind this freaking door right now. It could be like a nightmare. It could be, I have no idea. So that was like my biggest thing. But once you open that door and you meet the person, and all the anxiety is gone. So it's just about literally getting your foot in the door and just making sure that you're not living with a crazy person.
I moved in on the same day as one of my fellow Canadian CEP participants, my roommate Alejandro. Me and him got along great. We were great friends, hung out all the time. We had a great friend group sort of thing. And then we had two other roommates that were in there initially, and then they moved out after about 2 weeks of us being there. Their programs had ended. And we just had a constant in and out revolving door of roommates at that point after. So there was quite a bit of change with roommates. It was nice being able to be in a 4x2 layout, so you didn't have to worry about the constant moving in and out. I know some people, especially in the 2x2, if you're having constant roommates changing, it can be tough. You're trying to live your life, but you're sharing a whole room with someone else. So I at least had my own space where I felt comfortable. And if I needed the moment to take a step back and just enjoy my own time, I was able to do that as well.
So as we know, the CEP takes place in the summer, which is notoriously the most challenging time to be in Florida. So how did you adapt to the Florida summer climate, and was heat a challenge for you?
Let me just say, August is like the worst month of the year there. It's brutal. It's like kind of like a gradual increase when you get there. So you get there in like May or June. Okay, it's hot. June is a little bit hotter. July, oh, it's getting really hot. August, it's like you can't even walk outside. It's like insane. I think, I've been to Florida a lot in my life before going to my 2 programs, so I was kind of used to the heat. But when you're walking in the parks in August, it is no joke. Like, it seriously, like, you need a water bottle. Like, you need to invest in a water bottle, a good quality stainless steel water bottle. Don't get a plastic one. Stainless steel water bottle. There's so many places to fill up your water. The cast members will give you like they won't take your water bottle for you, but they'll give you like a cup. They'll fill up water. You pour it in your water bottle. Just do that. Buy yourself a water bottle. It will save you so much time, and just trust me. But yeah, that's the number one thing. Water bottle. I think hats are also important if you want to protect your face from the sun. It's not necessary, obviously, sunscreen. Hello. But yeah, water is the number one thing. Like, it is so hot there, and like getting AC breaks. I mean, this is why I love Disney, because their AC is incredible. Like, I think they have some of the best AC in the world. Like, when you walk into any air conditioned location, and you just like instantly just like get rid of all the heat that you had on you. So that's how I adjusted. I mean, like, I just water. That's all you need. Just drink water.
So I think it's very good that the program starts in May. I think it would be a lot harder if it started in June or July, because May there is a bit of that transition. So it isn't crazy hot when you first get there. So it gives you a bit of a chance to adjust, which I think was really important. And you get used to it. I think for me the biggest thing, like early on, when like in my first, I'd say 3 weeks there was one day where like I really kind of wore myself out and had probably a little bit of heat stroke. Which isn't good, but I think it's kind of part of that figuring out. And for me, it was really, I had to figure out kind of a good pace of daily activities that worked for me and was manageable in terms of like if I was going into the parks before a shift, how long I'd be in the parks, which park, depending on the weather, if I want to do more walking or less. So it definitely took a couple weeks to kind of figure out what worked for me and my body in the heat. But things like, I mean, I'd always wear sunscreen. And I think the biggest one is that everyone will tell anyone is drink a lot of water. Take advantage of the free quick service water. Like, we go, all the quick service restaurants, free cup of ice water. We had a lot of free cups of ice water last summer, I would say. Went through a lot. So.
You definitely get used to it after a while. It was a challenge though, because I was quick service food and beverage at Animal Kingdom, which is known to be like the hottest park because of the vegetation, and I had to do some roles which were like outside, like the fruit market was all outside, and then I had to do land stalker, which is like carrying stuff from like one side of the park to the other on like a cart. So that was hard in the heat. There was some days where I was just like totally spent because of the heat. I had to finish at 4 and I would just have to go back to Flamingo and just chill all night because I was just so tired. But my chords were really good at like swapping us, because they were supposed to swap you every like 2 hours if you're outside to like an inside position. So that was good. And then like just when you're like in the parks, just like having fun, you just have to drink a lot of water.
Heat was most definitely a challenge, I would say, especially in my specific role. You need to be out in the park cleaning up after the guests. So there's very little time where you can go and sort of hide indoors. You have to be out there ready for anything. So the biggest thing was just staying hydrated and finding shade where you could. I was very lucky with Animal Kingdom being one of the shadiest parks, especially with all the trees and the natural landscapes. There was lots of shade where you could stand off to, but it was definitely a much different climate than what we have here in Canada. I can say that. You just kind of have to build up a tolerance to it, if it makes any sense. Just try and spend some time outside as much as you can every day, and then on those days you work, you want to try and limit yourself. You need to make sure you're wearing your sunscreen. That's one thing I couldn't stress more to people, was there was a lot of people who figured, oh, I'll just wear it every once in a while. But no, you really need to wear your sunscreen as much as possible, and make sure you're drinking your water as much as possible.
And as we know, the CRP is a year-long program. So what were the best and worst parts about living in Florida for an entire year?
Yes. I'd say the best part for me, what I was really excited about, was getting to experience everything that Walt Disney World has to offer. I loved getting to be there for all the Epcot festivals, all the changing of the seasons. Like I said, I was very lucky to grow up visiting Walt Disney World a lot, but my family would tend to visit like the same times each year. So it was really fun getting to even like the different seasons of Florida, like the weather and all the different holidays. It was really, really great, all the different events. So I really just got like a full action-packed year. It was wonderful. For the worst part, I hate thinking this because I have nothing but happy things to say about my program, but I think the one thing I would say, like, take with a grain of salt about the CRP that I wish more people had kind of told me, was because you're there for such a long time, it's really important to like pace yourself. Like, I remember the first few months, like, I had so much energy and I was just go, like go to the parks every day after work. Probably pretty similar to the CEP, because, you know, like, you're there for a good amount of time, like a few months, but it's still a shorter time compared to the CRP. And you want to make the most of it, of course. Everyone does. It's the best time. But I'd say like closer to maybe like the last third of my program, I just started to feel really burnt out, because, you know, you're working sometimes like 13-hour days. Like, it was nuts. And especially with working at Disney, you know, you're performing essentially. Like, our roles as cast members are really important. Like, you have to maintain your show at all times. And, you know, you're working long hours. It's busy. It's hectic. You're doing physical work as well. It's draining. So I really had to start prioritizing having some like rest days as well, where I had to say no to some things. Like, oh, I really want to go to the parks, but I think today I should just stay home and, you know, sleep in and maybe read my book or have a cup of tea, like just things like that. Like, and it really helped, because I had to kind of tell myself, like, yes, I want to be able to go to the parks all the time, but if I'm not even like having the energy to enjoy it as much as I would when I have more energy, then, you know, it's not worth it. So it was nice for me. And some people didn't find that as much, but I would just say, like, just kind of listen to yourself and remember that because you're there for the full year, you have so much time to be able to do everything you want. You don't have to cram it all in right away. So yeah, just, I'd say slow it down. It's nice.
Did you find it easy to make friends? And how did you go about making friends on your program?
You know, 2022, I did not know really anybody. I knew like 2 people. I think I see a lot of posts, you know, on Facebook sometimes, on even like on the American, you know, DCP page, like, I have no friends. I'm scared of not being able to make friends. I think it's really important just to, like, there are a lot of people in the same boat as you who are going down there. Like, no one, like, very few people are going down there with a huge friend group they already have set to go. Like it's not like that. I mean, I assume there's definitely outliers, definitely people who definitely have people they know going, and that's fine. But the majority of people there are people who literally don't know anybody or know like 1 or 2 people. So it's important to recognize that you're in an environment that many people are in the same boat as you. And I think seeing all those posts on Facebook, it kind of makes me realize, okay, like, people, you know, they want to feel a sense of like community and a sense of like belonging, which I think Flamingo was so good at. And I think that's why Flamingo was such a great upgrade from the previous housing that was in the program before I ever did it. For me personally, you know, I went down there with that fear. My whole life, you know, I've been like really, you know, not the greatest at making friends. I, you know, have had my troubles with that, you know, growing up and still do now. But I think when you're down there, there's so it's like a college campus. There's so many people. There's 2 campuses, so there's like I think like definitely over 1,000, right? There has to be like there's so many people there, and like there's so many cast members who also live nearby, not even on housing, that you're gonna naturally meet when you're in the parks or wherever, right? So I mean, it's a huge community. Like there's someone firmly believe if you're open, you have an open personality and open just like aura about yourself, you're gonna attract the people that you're meant to attract. And no, you're not gonna be friends with everybody. You're not gonna be friends with 50 part people there because you can't even manage 50 friendships while you're on the program. I think personally for me, when I went down there, I was like, oh God, I want to be my first year. I was like, I want to be friends with everybody I can. I want to, you know, have as many friendships. That is like for me, like I'm just saying that is not the way to go because like you only have, first of all, you're working like most of the time you're down there. And when you're not working, you're gonna make time for the friends that you really want to make time for. But like when you're down there, like you're like you if you want to make friends, you kind of have to be open to it, right? So you can't just expect people to come to you. You kind of have to like approach people sometimes. Like I remember in the first year, you guys didn't have this. We didn't have this last year, but the mix and mingle in 2022, which is like the thing everybody loves to talk about. It was traumatic for so many of us. It was like a big room. We all just walked in and like there's like, okay, just talk to each other, go. And it was like for my social anxiety, it made me want to collapse. I hated it. It was horrible. But it helped me, right? And it helped, and I started talking to so many different people, and it really helped me open up my social abilities, right? So I think it's really important just to go down there, like especially for your first program, right? Because once you do another program, it's more than likely people you know from the previous year are going to come back, and you'll have some people to, you know, reconvene with. But the first year you're going down there, just be open, just have an open mindset, just go and just be open to people, and then people will reciprocate that and be open to you, and you'll have friends, and that's at least how it worked for me. And not everybody's experience is going to be the same, but you know, there's so many people down there, and if you want to find someone, you're probably going to.
So personally, I found it pretty easy, but I'm a pretty outgoing person. I'm not that shy, so I think that helped. The advice I'd give for this is if you're going, I think it's obviously some people don't love the in-person interviews because they have to travel for them, but I think such a benefit of the in-person interviews is it's a really good opportunity to meet people. You're probably going to end up, if you get an offer, you're probably going to see a lot of those people down there in Florida. So like I met Ashley at the interview, and I just think I met a lot of people at the interviews that I ended up becoming really close with. I don't want to say networking because I don't mean it that seriously, but kind of, you know, chatting up everybody and trying to make friends and introduce yourself to people at the interview, I think is a really good way to start. The other thing that I think was an advantage for me with my location is the Emporium's a huge store. They have a lot of CPs. So a lot of people that I already have stuff in common with because they're around my age, in school, doing like the Disney College program. So I made a lot of friends that way too, and I got really close to the people I was working with. So I think it's definitely really easy to make friends, but you do still need to be open and outgoing. Like if you're willing to put yourself out there, it will come to you pretty easily because there's just so many people and everybody wants to make friends, get to know each other.
Yeah, it was easy. Well, I knew Laura and Ashley from the interview in Toronto, so I already had friends like going in, which was nice. And then I knew Morgan and Aurelia because we went to like a Joshua Bassett concert together, which was nice. And then I met like some friends through Aurelia and Morgan. And then I met friends at work. Like it was like really easy to like make friends at work because you're constantly with these people like every day. Like they become like kind of like a little family to you. And then I met like friends from like my one friend Alasia's from Washington, and then I met some other friends from Colorado. So it was definitely hard to say goodbye to them at the end of our program when they had to like leave, because it's like for you and Laura, I know I was gonna see you guys again because we're from Canada, but they're from the States and from like faraway states. So I didn't know if I'd ever see them again. So that was sad. But it was really easy to make friends on the program just because there's so many people. And then you meet other people through other people. And then you meet people at work. So yeah, it was easy for me.
So making friends on the program was it came in waves almost in a sense because you meet everyone for the first time at interviews, and everyone's stressed out and nervous as is, because for most of us, we were all first-time participants. I believe on the interview date there was only one alumni that was at that interview date. So everyone was brand new to the process. No one knew anything going on. So everyone was in the same boat, but they were all so nervous, and nobody was really sure of what was about to happen next. So you sort of had to get a feel for things, talk to people where you could. I was lucky, like I said, to have my girlfriend with me, but as well, we had a couple friends we knew of that were applying for the program as well. So we had some friends that we could talk to about things and meet up while we were down there. And then I know especially the first night we all get down there, there's the big Canadian tradition of going to see the fireworks down at the Polynesian. So getting to meet everybody there was also a great stepping point for everybody to sort of meet others that were in the same situation as them and make friends. You'll make so many friends at your work locations. I don't think people realize how great of friends you'll make while you're down there with these people. They may live half a world away, but I have great friends that are all over the world now. I have friends in Mexico, England, Scotland, and even all throughout the States as well that I talk to on a daily basis.
I did. I mean, I was very lucky. I mean, well, James and I started dating like pretty much the beginning of our program, so he's my best buddy. But I was really lucky to find my other best friend, Jessie, really early as well. She was working, we all worked in merch together in Canada, so it was really fun. And Jessie actually arrived the same day as me, and then James was a week later. So our programs are pretty much the exact same. So we got to spend the whole year together. But as for other friends, like we had, I'd say like the difference with the CRP, at least for me, I think this was a little different because of COVID. But since the majority of us kind of arrived within a few weeks of each other, we were pretty much doing the whole program with the same people. Whereas now with the CRP, you have they're starting to get back to a little bit more of a revolving door. Not so much yet, but eventually it's going to be, like different arrivals and departures each month. Like that's how the program was originally designed. So the pavilion is constantly employed by different cast members from Canada. But for my program, it was different. Everyone just got so close. Like it really was like a family, which was really nice. So yeah, we'd all hang out every now and then. Jelly Rolls was fun. We'd go after work sometimes. We once went to the movies together, a few of us. We saw Little Mermaid. We go to Disney Springs. So yeah, it was nice. I think, you make friends with people you work with, but, Flamingo has so many awesome events too. I definitely found myself like, I've always been a little bit more introverted in the sense, like I would always much rather have, like a couple friends. I don't anything major. I'm not really a party person. That's just me. But everyone is so open and welcoming, and there's something for everyone. Whether you want to like go out and have fun or do something a little more quiet. Flamingo has so many fun events, and I found myself opening up to people more, like chatting with people in the lines and exchanging social media. And, some of those people ended up being good friends. Some, we just said hello to. I once, when the Midnight album for Taylor came out, we ended up going into one of the Flamingo like study rooms in the main building. And we literally had like a bunch of people walking by and were like freaking out with us. And we had like two random strangers come in and listen to the album with us. I never saw those people again, but I still think of them every time because I'm like, wow, my new friends, great times, right? Like it's funny stories like that. Like you never know who will end up being a lifelong friend. So yeah, I think it was really great. And like I said, there's so many fun events and really great opportunities to like put yourself out there. So even if you're someone who's like a little nervous about making friends, I think there's still a lot of great opportunities to do so. So you're never going to be by yourself.
What was your initial reaction to the role that you were offered? Did you get the role you wanted? And what was your reaction to your location?
Oh gosh. Okay. So, 2022, I think if you never worked for Disney before, I think you probably go in with an idea of your dream role. And then when you actually go and work it, you may not even like it because like thinking about it and actually doing it are two very different things, especially at Disney World. It's a very, intense job, which a lot of people don't really realize when you're well, it depends on the location, but most of the part, you're gonna be in a very busy place. But in 2022, I went in with the, I want to go on like a really cool ride and do like, like Space Mountain or like something like crazy like that. I got mini golf as my attraction. I was the only person, I think the first CEP ever to get mini golf. So I guess I set like a new record or something, but I was the only CEP ever. And they were shocked when I was there that I was from Canada. And they were like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm from Canada. I'm not even American. But yeah, so when I got a mini golf in 2022, I was like, at first, I'll be honest, I was really upset. Like, I was not happy with it. I was like, I want an attraction, and I got mini golf. That's not an attraction. Like, that's like literally not an attraction. And working there, I can confirm it did not feel like an attraction. It felt like merchandise / like caretaker, honestly, because the job I had to do was garbage every single day when I get there at 3 o'clock, and then register, which I ended up liking a lot, but and I got really busy, which I do like, but yeah, it was not an attraction. Like, the most attractive thing I did was, I don't know, like walk the course and to check to people to get them to leave at the end of the night. No, so really upset when I got mini golf. I was really disheartened. I was like really like broken. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got mini golf. But it was a good, experience, a good, segue into, I guess from my own personal journey, it was a good start, because I don't think I would have benefited starting off in a real merchandise location or a real, attraction. And now knowing how attractions work from friends who've done it, and just seeing, like, when you're a cast member, you kind of get a better, for any role that you're in, you kind of get a better inside look to how it works behind the scenes for any really role there. So now that I know all the facts I didn't have before, I am kind of happy I didn't do an attraction, but that's just me. And then 2023, I again was upset when I got my role. Seems to be a common theme for me. I kind of jumped the gun a bit. That's just my own personal flaw. But anyways, I got Emporium. So okay, well, at first, again, last year's application process was really traumatic for me, because when everybody on their work day was seeing their role, like at the top, it said, I think that it was like from, and then it said like where you're like exactly where you're going to be positioned. For me, I didn't get that. I was one of the only people who did not get an actual like location on their work day. So so I was like, I have no clue where I am. I emailed HR, I emailed everybody I could, and they're like, well, you're at the Emporium in Magic Kingdom. And I'm like, what? So I was really upset, because I was like, oh my God, I never worked in a real retail setting before. I'm gonna like be horrible. It's gonna be so busy. I'm gonna hate it. Like, it's gonna be just like so much work, and I'm gonna like lose it. And I was reading online all these like war stories about working, to be like, oh my God, it's so busy. The fireworks rush, it's like insane. And like, you need to prepare yourself. And the week, because when you get to Florida for your program, there's a week where you're not working, the first week you get there. And everybody I would tell my role to, any cast member who I saw, who would ask, anybody at Flamingo, they were like, oh, good luck, I'm so sorry, or I'm praying for you, when I say the Emporium. And I was like, you're really making me feel amazing about this. So I think, if you get a role you're not sure if you're gonna like, just try it out. You don't know. Don't deny your offer just because you got a role you didn't want, or you're not going to do good at. Just go. I think it's a really good idea just to go in and just have an open mind. And that's what I did both times. I enjoyed both my roles.
So merchandise was definitely one of my top choices. I'd had a ton of retail experience, so it was something I definitely felt comfortable in and knew I liked already, which really made me want to go into it with Disney. So super happy about merchandise. And then I think the big part of this was when I found out my location was the Emporium. Like, I remember, getting that email, and like I literally like burst into tears. I was like on the GO train, and I checked my email, and I was like happy tears. I was so happy. It was like, I mean, in a lot of like YouTube videos and on social media, people talk about like their dream locations. And for me, and I think a lot of people, Emporium was definitely a dream location of mine. And I couldn't believe I got it, like, because it was kind of the high of even just getting into the program, getting merchandise, and then getting in like the absolute best location I ever could have wanted. And something I said like to Ashley all the time during the summer is, it's like, you say you work in Disney World, and like you can just pick like Emporium, it's on Main Street in front of the castle, right as you walk into Magic Kingdom. Like, it really did feel like I was in the center of the magic. So that was just so exciting, finding out I'd be working there.
So I kind of assumed that I would get quick service food and beverage, just because I worked at a movie theater for 4 years, and then I was working at Subway while I applied. So I assumed I would get quick service food and beverage. I wanted attractions at first. I wasn't like sad or anything when I got quick service, because I already like had a feeling I was gonna get it. My location, I was a bit upset about when I first saw it, because I wanted Magic Kingdom, because that was my favorite park.
Originally, when I found out about my role, I was a little taken aback. I assumed having custodial at my third decision out of the top 3 that you give during the interview process wouldn't have been as likely, especially I had merch, I think, at 1 or 2, and I had retail experience for 4 years beforehand, things like that. I had asked a bit about attractions, so I wasn't upset or anything. I was just surprised, if that made any sense. Little did I know I was going to enjoy custodial so much. A lot of people would normally see that role and they think, oh, I'm the one cleaning up after everybody. I'm the one that's now stuck cleaning the garbage, cleaning up the restrooms, doing those sort of things that you might not think would be as fun as they end up being. So my initial reaction was just kind of surprised, and then over time it started to grow on me, the idea of the role.
So for the CRP, CRP is a little different because we can only have, like, as you know, the 3 roles in the Canada Pavilion, so merch, attractions, and food and beverage. Merch was my first choice, so I was really excited about it. I remember in my interview, like I said, I'd be open to all roles. I don't have any food and beverage experience, and I told them that. I was like, I'll happily learn, but I don't really know anything. But I was also a former Disney Store cast member, so I already knew about, like, kind of the Disney mentalities, I guess you could say, like about merchandise and like all the sort of performance-based things, I guess you could say. And everything I learned about merch ahead of time made me really excited about it. So yeah, it was my first choice, and I was very happy with that.
What was your on-the-job training like, and what did training for your role and location entail, and was it challenging to adapt to your role?
The training for Merchandise Emporium, it was early in the morning, which is kind of different because almost all of my shifts and almost all of college programmer shifts are at night. So it's pretty early in the morning, and that's almost the only time I ever had morning shifts all summer was when I was training. One thing that I really appreciate is, I mean, Disney's such a huge company, and they've trained thousands and thousands of employees, so they have the training down. It's super methodical and thorough, which made me feel really comfortable because they were really making sure they'd teach it to us and make sure we were able to do what they were teaching before kind of putting us out on our own on the sales floor, right? So they really took their time with us, which made me feel a lot better. It was more just adapting to, I mean, if you've been to the Emporium, it's a giant store, right? So kind of figuring out what the store, like Emporium in particular, it's split up into 6 different sections. So kind of what's in each of those sections, where do you get to the stock room? Where is the stock room located backstage that connects to the stuff that's going to be in that room of the store? So it was a lot of that kind of just the geographically navigating yourself around the onstage, backstage situation of the beast that is the Emporium. And for me, as much as I love merchandise, I suck at math. So for me, adapting to the working with cash and like the US dollars, that was probably the hardest part of it for me. But all my trainers were super, super supportive and really, they made you feel comfortable, and it was very much, it's okay to fail, or it's okay to not be perfect on your first try because we're going to get you there. So it was definitely a safe place to learn. We also got to know sort of the different roles or types of shifts we've had. So whether you were on register, or there was another position called show support, which is where essentially you're helping guests out on the floor. So if they're looking for a spirit jersey, you can be like, I'll walk in where our spirit jerseys are. So, and then also courier, which is where you are helping with stock. So you're bringing things from the back onto the floor. The part of me when I think about those like that week or week and a half of training at the Emporium, the thing that sticks out the most to me was, I remember on our first day of training, we got to go kind of right where the barber shop is, and we got to stand right there and we got to watch the parade, which you're not allowed to do when you're working, which makes sense, but during training you get to do that. So you get to kind of experience that from that point of view. And for me, that was my first time all summer watching the parade, which was, it's just really magical, right? And then also later on in my first week of training, on one of the evenings, we got to watch the fireworks from a location backstage, which was also just very, very magical. I cried, but I mean, I cry every time I see them. Like, that's just one of the moments of like the first day, and I remember like watching the fireworks from backstage, just like, what even is my life right now? Like, how is this real?
My training was like a long process. I had like 9 training shifts in total. It spanned like 2 weeks. It was a bit difficult just because I was learning like 5 different stands, like food buildings out like in that amount of time. So it was a bit difficult, but I worked in quick service, like I said, my whole life. So I was a bit comfortable in that aspect because the girl that I trained with, my friend Paige, she's from Canada as well. She never worked in quick service food before, and a lot of people in my role hadn't either. So that was a bit difficult for them, but I felt like comfortable working around food just because I had before. But my training process was like a bit long, and like my shifts on the second week, I had like morning shifts, so I had to wake up at like 5 a.m. But thankfully, after my training, I didn't have to work morning shifts, which was nice. It's really overwhelming at first just because I had a lot of training shifts, but then like when you exit training, especially in quick service, no one feels like they know what they're doing because it was a lot and it was like 5 different stands, but you get used to it as you continue to work and you like pick up more things, which is like understandable. But it was definitely a longer process than like other jobs I worked at in Canada. So yeah.
It was a good experience. I mean, like my first trainer at mini golf, I had a couple actually, it was different one every single day. It was very simple. I mean, it was just like, here's what you do, this is how you do it, and that's it. Like for 2023 though, for merchandise, it was like a lot more of a ordeal because this is like Magic Kingdom merchandise. This is like a big deal, like for them, right? If they're gonna put people there, they want to make sure they're putting people there who can actually do the job. No, it was like we did tours around Main Street, and we walked around with like some coordinators. And I kid you not, for 30 minutes we were out there, and he was just reading about like the windows of Walt Disney World, and I was like, oh my god, I am burning out here. It was miserable. So training though overall was good, but like when it's stuff like that, when it's like burning heat in Florida and like we're in our costumes, which are really hot, by the way, like those Emporium costumes are very hot. So the air conditioning being like, when the air conditioning was not working in the Emporium, it was like miserable. But when it's working, it's fine. But yeah, no, that was not a good part of training. But everything else though, I loved. I mean, like it was like a really good hands-on training. One of my trainers asked me, do you know how to use a register? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You need to show me the whole thing. Yeah, it was really thorough. All the trainers were very, 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 easy to get along with, and I became friendly with some of them, later on throughout my program. So it was very nice to have that nice, bond with them.
Yeah. For merch, like I said, as I was a Disney Store cast member, I feel like I had a decent understanding going into it, but obviously it's very different being in Walt Disney World. It's much more larger than life. I had a few different trainers because since I was the first group of Canadians back in, we had a lot of DCP cast members who were filling in, and they were lovely. So I had like a different trainer each day. So it was nice getting to know them, but it also made it like a little choppy at times, different people. Now you will most likely have the same trainer. I ended up being a trainer, so did James and Jesse. So we all were kind of working together with that. The tech system is very self-explanatory. I was a little worried about that, but the registers are all really great. I think what was so awesome about the Disney trading methods is it's really set up to help you succeed. Like each day is a different stage, like there's different tiers, and on each tier you learn different things, and then at the end you have like a little test, and if you need to go back and learn things, you can. So I was so scared, like, if I fail my training, like, are they going to send me home? Like, what do I do? And I was so nervous, but they're like, no, if there's things you need to go over again, like, absolutely we can. And Disney always tries to pick trainers who are, recommended by their leadership. You can apply and you have an interview process. So you know that they're people who really want to help the next group of cast members. I was so honored to be a trainer because I really wanted to be a part of that in the Disney story and getting in to welcome our new cast members. So I was very honored for that. But I think knowing that, never be afraid to like ask your trainers for extra help. Like they're not there to judge you. They're not there to, if they already know you're nervous, it's a new job. Anyone would be, it's okay. So yeah, never be afraid to ask for help if they've gone over something and you're still not getting it. Like there's different ways to learn and that's okay. But I really enjoyed merchandise. Like I said, there were different tiers. So I think it was about a week of training. And then you can keep that earning my ears tag on for as long as you're comfortable, just so you can get the hang of it. I actually didn't know that. I thought it was like a test and then you took your earning your ears off. I didn't realize. And I thought that was really great because I think it's nice to, when you're comfortable, when you feel ready, then you can, have your official name tag out. And that's always a problem for everyone if you get Mickey to take it off or you do it yourself. It's really fun. But yeah, I think the training process for it was really great. I think the best thing, like I said, just to reiterate, never be afraid to ask for extra help. Even from cast members who aren't trainers, like just trust that everyone's there to help you and you'll be just fine.
Adapting to the role was definitely a little different than what I expected. It was about 3 days of training, I believe. There's a lot of reading involved in the training just to get a grasp on everything, understand, especially in custodial, you're dealing with chemicals, some that can be harsher than others. So you just need to be aware of those, which ones to be using during certain situations, things like that. It was nice being able to go out and explore the parks. I think that was one thing a lot of people don't think about in the first place is especially in custodial guest services, I think probably 50% of my job was just telling people which direction they were going or where to find things. You really are that first person that they're looking for while you're out there. They recognize those all white costumes. So they're always helpful. And it was nice to sort of work your way around the park, learn little by little, because every time I went in, I could have been in a different area of the park. One day I'm in Dino Land, the next day I'm in Asia, the next day I'm at the park entrance. So I could have been anywhere. So I had to really familiarize myself with the entire lay of the land there.
Did your initial opinion towards your role or location change throughout the summer? If so, how did it change? And what about your role made your opinion change?
I probably have a pretty boring answer to this. It really didn't change. Like, I couldn't be happier. I mean, it really didn't change that much. It just reaffirmed. I feel like this is annoying to hear if you didn't like your role, but I mean, I loved it. I'd always, was how I'd always imagined it. Like, I still can't believe it was real, and I lived it. I'd say one of the things, like, just to kind of alter the question a little bit, but like, not even just my role or location, but just Disney World in general, like being in Magic Kingdom at the Emporium, like it made me realize to like an even bigger scale how massive of an operation like Walt Disney World is, and like how there's like 70,000 employees, and like when you see like the backstage of like all this land, and like from like, you know, the costuming and these giant rooms with all these costumes, like all this stuff, you like experiencing it and seeing it, like it's like obviously we know Walt Disney World's big, but it's on another level. It kind of sinks in. And same kind of with the Emporium. Like it's huge. So
and I think extending your point about the huge operation, the big question I get is, did it magic for you? And for me, it actually made it more magical.
I agree. I really don't think it didn't ruin the magic for me at all. Like I think it really kind of enhanced it. It kind of made me kind of appreciate all of it more when you see how many people are putting that work in. I was like, but it's different, like seeing it. And then also like all the hotels, like, yeah, there's like over 30 hotels, but still like it's such a, like, I don't even know what to say, because I feel like it's so common sense, but for me, it's still crazy how giant it is.
Yeah. So, I definitely recommend everybody who's watching this to not have the same mindset I have before when you first get your role or get your location. Definitely more open than I was. But mini golf, for example, I went in thinking I was gonna hate it. I was like, this is so lame. I went to work at I went here to work at like Splash Mountain, and I got mini golf. But I ended up liking it. And in 2023, merchandise, I think more so I was just scared. I did not know what to expect. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I think for me, it's hard to picture myself doing something unless I've done it before, or done something similar. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? Like, I'm going to like completely sink. Like I'm going to hate it. But I ended up loving it. I mean, I think it was just like I got really lucky. I think I've heard from many different people that people get the role and they actually don't end up liking their role whatsoever, which is a completely like thing that can happen to you if you're on this program. You can definitely get a role and you may hate your role. So I mean, it can happen, right? So I mean, that's a risk you're taking. But I think, if you go in with a good mindset, you could make it work. I mean, for me, I got lucky at the Emporium. I loved it. I don't know, like being on register for 6 hours after fireworks, I loved it. It was really great. It's not for everybody. I think some people would hate it. Personally, I love doing it. So I mean, I would go back and do that in a second, but I can't. So But yeah, I think just, if you give it a chance, you give yourself time to breathe and just like kind of get accustomed to your environment and just like get comfortable, I think you could find joy in any role there.
Honestly, no, I loved it the whole time. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. I loved merch so much. I think I always think, roles are different depending on the person. Some people may have merch as their last choice. Some people could have it as their first choice. It really just depends. I loved merch so much because it was very guest facing, and that's what I loved most so much about being a cast member. I love getting to interact with guests. I love getting to make an impact on their day. I loved getting to direct them around the park and answering their questions. Like, it always made me so happy. Like, I'm getting paid to talk about my favorite place in the world. Like, when guests would ask me, like, oh, what should we do next? I'm like, let me tell you, I love Epcot. Here's a full list. And it was wonderful. And I loved making magical moments. I loved making buttons. You were there on Canada Day. That was a big day for me, making
The
like
best
200 buttons.
there is. Oh yeah.
Thank you. I was very proud. It was really fun. I loved pin trading with guests. I loved giving out stickers, the clapping squares and bubble wands. Like, it's just so much fun. And I also think merch on the CRP is so nice because you realize, like, a lot of guests don't know much about Canada. So I really loved getting to tell them about my hometown, tell them my own personal stories being Canadian. And also I'm studying to be a teacher. So it was a really exciting opportunity for me to be able to teach guests about Canada, and I really loved it. So yeah, I loved merch so much. I think, like I said, it all depends on the person, but for me, it was perfect choice. I loved it.
So yeah, to start off with it, I saw Animal Kingdom and went, oh, okay. It's the park that opens the earliest, but also closes the earliest for the most part. So I was trying to think of that and think, okay, will I be early? But for most of us who are programs participants, you're always the closing people. You're always in late at night. So I loved that over the summer. I grew to love it. Of Animal Kingdom closing at 7, the latest I was in the park was till 8:30, but very rarely did that ever happen. So when Magic Kingdom was still open till 11 or even midnight on those nights, I could get off work at 7:30, hop on a bus after I changed, and I was able to go hang out with friends or just go watch Happily Ever After, go watch Fantasmic, grab a quick bite of something. It was definitely something a lot of people wouldn't think of when they hear Animal Kingdom. They might think, oh, it's the park that people don't go to as often, but some people put it lower in their list, but it's definitely something I learned to love as well over the summer. I had a love for Animal Kingdom to start with, but it wasn't my top park, but it's definitely up there now after getting to be there and learn about all the different experiences. It's not the park with the biggest thrill rides or the themed lands such as Galaxy's Edge that some people learn to love and they just are enthralled with it, but there's so much little things there. It's really a park about learning and experiences. You get to learn a lot about the cultures.
So I wanted attractions, like I said at first, but after seeing kind of what people do in attractions, specific attractions, I should say, I don't think I would really like it. Like some of the like slower attractions where you just like let people onto like the track, you know what I mean, like Haunted Mansion, Little Mermaid, like stuff like that. I don't think I would like that because you just stand there. And quick service, you're like constantly moving around doing stuff, especially at my location at Harambe Market. Like I said, I worked 5 stands, so I was constantly switching stands, which was fun too. Yeah, I wanted attractions at first, like a high thrill attraction, but I'm glad I did get quick service just because I am comfortable. And I didn't want my location at first. Like I said, I wanted Magic Kingdom, but after seeing Magic Kingdom quick service, once I did my program, I don't really want Magic Kingdom. Like Animal Kingdom is less busy than Magic Kingdom, obviously. And the people are like, the guests were so nice. And then, yeah, I didn't think I would like Harambe Market at first when I first got it. But then I loved my location afterwards. Like everyone I worked with was so nice, and I made like such good friends there. And I also liked that it was 5 stands because I could do different things, which was like kept my mind occupied, and I did like that it was like not the busiest park just because it wasn't too overwhelming for me, and I liked the hours of the park, and I loved like the vibes of the park and like the nature and the animals and stuff. So I did like it afterwards. After working there, like I think a month, I liked it. At first, I hated it during my training. I was like, how am I gonna do this? But after working there for like a month, yeah, I loved it, and I would honestly want to work there again or Animal Kingdom again, just because of the atmosphere of the park.
What was the best aspect of working in your role, and what was the worst or most challenging aspect of working in your role?
I definitely think one of the better things was the freedom we were given. A lot of people don't know about the certain roles. I know with having friends in attractions and things like that, when they get assigned to a rotation or a position, they're stuck there until they are told to move to their next rotation or position otherwise. So you're stuck in the same spot for possibly an hour, hour and a half at a time, stuck doing the same thing. Whereas for myself, if I want to just walk around and talk to people, I could. It was great. You got to talk to people from all over the world all the time. You got to help people out, make their days. It was great always just being able to help people out with things that might have been they're struggling with otherwise, like trying to figure out where they were going. They might have had a lightning lane booked, but they don't really understand, or just someone having a rough day that you were able to turn it around, sort of thing. Some of the challenges, I mean, with being so spread out and being able to work anywhere, it was definitely tough trying to learn all the different areas and the different terms used as well, because they're not terms you would think of as a guest. They're just different things like that. As well as there was deployments you might have known some people had. So I was deployed to ESPN for 3 days when I was on my program. It was interesting to all of a sudden just have a shift assigned to you somewhere completely different that you didn't choose to move to. So a lot of people don't think of that as a possibility of happening, but it is something that can happen, especially on those busier weeks.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think the best thing about so as much as I love the Emporium, I think one of the coolest things about merchandise is that you can trade locations, because merchandise is considered like a globally trained role. Is that what they call it? Yeah. So you can, once you're trained on like cash and everything, you can essentially pick up or trade shifts with any merchandise location all across the property. I know me and Ashley both all summer, we were like going to different, like trying all the park. We did every park, we did some resorts, and it's fun because you get to try the different costumes, and you get to like meet new people. And it's just fun seeing like the backstage and like the behind the scenes of different areas. The other thing about Magic Kingdom is, you know, kind of if you know, you know, but being in Magic Kingdom, and I got to experience a pretty unique way of getting to and from work. And a pretty, like, I mean, the tunnels are really cool, and it's just neat that that's kind of, I just went in them every day, and it's such something that a lot of people want to see and pay a lot of money to see, but it was just part of my everyday, so that was kind of neat. You also get like a lot of guest interaction, which is something I really, really loved. One of the worst or most challenging, for me, the most challenging was counting the money. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like it takes a lot of brain power, and I don't always do it right, but I got kind of in my head about it sometimes, but I feel like that's kind of a unique thing. But the most challenging was probably, especially in certain merch locations like the Emporium, it's really busy. Guests can have opinions or like they can have strong feelings. So just kind of being able to manage that at very busy locations and managing multiple people at once can be stressful. And especially in Emporium, you'd have very late hours if you worked merchandise. So that, but I mean, pros and cons to everything. But yeah.
Okay. 2022 for me, oh God, I mean, garbage in 2020, when I had to do garbage and mini golf, oh my God, every single shift, because I would only get mid shifts, which were 8-hour shifts, which were great. But they started, like, their process there was, if you start at 3, you have to do the garbage. So I had to walk around all the outside. I had to walk around everywhere and just do garbage, which was horrible. And then 2023, hard, like it was just like dealing with the crowds. I mean, like it was difficult. You couldn't walk after fireworks. I mean, you had to really maneuver your way through like the the circus that was in there was insane. Like it was just it's if you're imagining a packed store, imagine that times 10. It's like you couldn't even walk. So I think that also dealing with some guests who maybe were a little bit, difficult to deal with sometimes. But I think I think you have to realize that you have to act like you know what you're talking about when you're on register, or when you're even in the store. Like when you're working on the floor there and someone asks you where something is, I think for me, one of the most challenging parts at first is knowing where things were. But once you just start answering the questions, you just start walking the store, it becomes like your home, right? That's why I never picked up anywhere else. I want to memorize the store I was working at. So when someone asked me where something was, I'd be like, oh, it's right over there. It's right over that way. Like, so I think just getting accustomed to the environment and figuring out where things were was the hardest part. But once I started doing it, it was like very easy. It became like a natural reflex for me.
For most challenging, what comes to mind? I mean, some of my fellow cast members got very long hours, but I think that's pretty standard. Like that could be on any program, any role. That's just working in the parks, and you get used to it and you adapt and you make the best of it. I actually really liked working long shifts because I thought it was really fun, just kind of having like the I'm here all day mentality, let's do this. And it was really fun. I think also sometimes with merch in Canada, one thing I will say to keep in mind is it's not your average merch location, because we do serve alcohol. So we have like the responsible vendor training in our training program. And that's a large part of the role, pouring, serving beer, talking to the guests about them. And I knew that they sold alcohol, but I didn't know how much of it would be, but it really is a large part of it. And, at times, when you're serving alcohol, as we all know, sometimes guests may not be the nicest. So we're really well trained on how to deal with it. And our leadership will help us out. And if you're ever in an unsafe situation, there is support and you're trained on how to handle it. But I'd say that would probably be a difficult part. It doesn't happen too often. I was really lucky not to have to have experiences like that too often. But like I said, if you are ever in that situation, there are things to help you with it. So that's just one thing I would keep in mind about merch. Just be aware that is part of the job, and that you will be trained on how to handle those situations. For the best parts, I think just everything I just said before. Like I loved, and this is why I loved merch so much, just the guest interaction. It meant the world to me to think that I was making an impact on guest day, like so many amazing cast members have done for me and my family growing up. As we all know, cast members are the magic. They're the ones that create the stories and the world of Walt Disney World and all the parks. What I love so much about it for me, I remember on my very last day, like my leaders asked me like, oh, what was your favorite part of your program? And for me, I thought, they joked because they were like, well, obviously you got engaged, but aside from that, I said, because I had found out about the CRP from a cast member when I was 7, anytime I got to tell another guest about the program, whether they were a little kid or a teenager wanting to work in Disney World, it meant the world to me, because you never know the impact you can have on a guest. Maybe now they're going to dream about doing this program, or you give a recommendation to a guest on a ride and it could be their favorite one, or you joke around with them. I remember I once complimented a guest Meet the Robinson t-shirt, and I was like, oh, I love that movie, it's so underrated. And we talked about it for a little bit, and then 2 seconds later I got a cast compliment and they said I like made their day. And I was just like, you never know, right? Like that's what's so wonderful, I think, about merch, especially because you're interacting with them and you're bringing out the smiles and the joy, and that's such an incredible part of it. So like I said, I absolutely loved merch and I would recommend it to everyone. It's great.
Okay, the best was giving magical moments for sure, because I served like cinnamon buns and Dole Whips and like the corn too. So all of those things are like easy to give magical moments to guests, because, oh, we made an extra Dole Whip, here's a magical moment. Or sometimes I would just be like to my courts, can I go give a magic moment? Like I want like a little bit of serotonin. So I'd make a Dole Whip, I'd go out into the park and I would give like the little kids the Dole Whips and they would be so happy. And then like I said, I also like just there's always something to do in quick service. And then the hardest part, I think, was just the heat. Just because I know some quick service, you're inside. Like Cosmic Rays, you're inside the whole time. But Harambe Market, like I said, there's outside rules, like standing at the cash outside or the fruit market outside, and then like getting stuff, like getting different foods outside, like Landstalker, like I said. So the heat was definitely the hardest part, but my cords were really good, so it wasn't like I was stuck outside for 5 hours. Like I would ask to be switched every 2 if they hadn't switched me yet, just because it was difficult for them to keep track of all those people. So sometimes you'd have to remind them, but once you did, they moved you right away. So the heat was definitely difficult, but my cords were good, if that makes sense.
So overall, would you suggest your role to a new applicant? And how would you suggest that one best prepares for that role, whether that be their skills, their experience, their physical abilities, anything under that umbrella?
I would recommend merch, especially if you're someone who, like I said, likes to interact with guests. Maybe you'd like something a little more behind the scenes, that's okay too. All of the roles in Canada, in the Canada Pavilion, do have some elements of guest facing experiences, so they're all a little different, but for me personally, I felt like merch was really up there for it. It's always really helpful to study a little bit about Canada, like have a few fun facts ready to go. I think that's what really helped me to stand out in my initial application, and then it really came in handy working merch, just because, like I said, a lot of guests don't know very much about Canada, and they're really excited to learn when to go into different pavilions. I think something I will say about the CRP is you have to kind of keep in mind that you're essentially a different type of cast member. Like you're a cultural representative. So you're there to teach the guests about Canada. I always think, we always have guests come in and we all, like, if you've seen the pavilion, like it's very historical interpretation of Canada. So when they come in, they're like, oh, Canada doesn't look like that anymore. And we explain like, well, each pavilion is set like a different point in history. It's got elements of different areas. Like we have like the Victoria Gardens and the mountains. We have like the maritime cottages and, all those things. But I would always love to be able to tell guests, we are what make it authentic. Like I'm here to be able to tell you about Canada. Like it was really funny. There was one day I had a guest, they said, like, what's the most like authentic Canadian thing in here? And I was like, me, because I'm from Canada. And they didn't really believe me at first. And it was really funny. And that's the thing too. You will have a lot of guests who think you're just an actor. And I didn't really realize that. They would say like, oh, where's your Canadian accent? And I'd be like, well, what do you mean? I'm talking right now. Because, they hear stereotypes or they hear other Canadian accents and, they just think that. But that's just part of the job, and you just kind of laugh it off and it's fine. And then it's fun. You get to teach them about it. Well, you will sometimes be lifting like heavy things at times, but I think that's kind of the same for any merchandise role.
Oh, okay. For mini golf, I don't believe anybody's really going to get mini golf again, just based on what I've heard. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna talk from a merchandise perspective, because I don't even believe my role is even attraction based. I can't really speak for like the generic attraction. I definitely talk about merchandise. Both my roles I considered were kind of merchandise based, especially the Emporium. What I'd recommend, I would not recommend doing what I did, going with no retail experience whatsoever. I think that's a big no-no. It depends, because like for me, I adapted really well, and I kind of just figured it out by myself. But if you're someone who thinks you need, a little bit extra preparation, or you want some training beforehand, definitely get like a job somewhere local to you that's merchandise based and just start working there. Because a store like the Emporium, their management, or the way their store works, is gonna be similar to really any big store, right? So I definitely recommend, having like a sense of like what you're getting yourself into. I didn't. I just kind of walked in there just blindly, but I kind of had an idea that I know I could do it because I did register prior at mini golf the following the prior summer, which again I think prepped me for my role at the Emporium, which I think happens for a reason, which is why I got that role in the beginning. So I think just knowing that, knowing what you're going to be doing essentially for merchandise, I think is really important. You're gonna be on the register. You're gonna be walking around telling guests where things are. Of course, it's location dependent, but mainly throughout the property, that's pretty much what you're doing. Like you're a guest wants to know where something is, you kind of have to tell them, exactly, where it is or where it could be, or if you need to go check for it. Like having a sense of what's in stock, what's not in stock, what you have. You kind of just get like a picture memory in your brain of the store. I also think, knowing the rules, which I was very, very strict on when I was working at Register. If people want, discounts, or they want, to use their Blue ID, or you don't want to use this or that, there's rules around that. And you can get in trouble for not following those rules. I think, having a sense of following the rules and, making sure that you're on top of stuff, knowing if you know how to talk to guests and like how to interact with them, like have a smile on your face, even if you're not having a good day, and to just, guide people in the direction that they need to go, especially if you're in the park, like, knowing, okay, this attraction's that way, this restaurant's over there. Like, you have to have a general sense, especially if you're in Magic Kingdom or in Epcot or any of the major store in any park, because every park has a major store in them. You have to know the park. You have to know where you're working. If someone asks where is, Mickey Minnie's Monterey Railway, and you're working at the big store at Hollywood Studios, you gotta know where that is, which is very easy to point out, but the guests may not know that, right? So you have to just have an idea of the park you're working in. You're not just working in your store, you're working in the park. So you have to know where stuff is. Just think mentally preparing yourself for how busy it's going to get at certain points throughout the day as well. So I think just having a general sense of how a merchandise store works is a really important thing to do.
I would recommend it just because, like I said already, I've worked in quick service like through my whole life, so I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd recommend it to like people who haven't, because I know some people who hadn't didn't really prefer it. But if you have worked in it, then I think you would very, very much enjoy it, especially the location. But yeah, it was a physically demanding job. Like cleaning Dole Whip machines was physically demanding, land stocking was physically demanding, and the heat was physically demanding too, or mentally demanding, I don't know, both. If you haven't worked in it before, safety is number one priority, because especially with food, you can get people sick. We had to constantly switch stuff out when the like expiration date was up. Like most foods only last like an hour, 4 hours for some foods. So just getting used to like having safety as the number one priority when you're serving food to guests, I guess.
I would definitely recommend it to people, but it's something that's for a certain type of individual, if that makes any sense. You have to be willing to do it. It's not something, because especially people that might be fainter of the heart or fainter stomach even, especially dealing with certain bodily fluids, things like that. I know I had some co-cast that they had special requirements that they couldn't deal with blood or things like that, just with how they might faint or things like that. So if that's something that could be of concern to you, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to you. I would definitely recommend it to anyone if they're willing to just get out there and learn about the parks. It's a great way to learn about all the little tips and tricks, all the little crevices, all the little things that you never knew about to start with. There's so much I learned there. Like, especially beside the Nemo show, there was a bathroom there I didn't know about that existed there. It's a lovely little area back there that people can go and just sit down on benches out there. So I would definitely recommend it to others if they're willing to do it. You get to do so much. I know working on the planet of Pandora, the world of Avatar, was great. So as it being our home park, we were given name tags and learning the language of the Na'vi. We could take classes to learn Na'vi as well. So that was definitely something that was really cool that I didn't think about, especially being there at Animal Kingdom.
So I think with merchandise, I would definitely suggest that to a new applicant. I think merchandise is probably one of the less intimidating ones, just because yes, it's Disney, but it really is like any retail job, which is something that everyone kind of knows and understands how it works, where there's some more unique aspects to even some of the quick service food and bev roles, or even some of the cedar roles, or custodial, or especially character attendant. Your attractions are very uniquely Disney things. That's more specialized, but merchandise, it's pretty general, which can make it easy and approachable and make people feel comfortable doing it. And I think having retail experience is a really massive asset, just to make yourself like, I think Disney, they'll hire you. Like, I don't think that has too much of a way in whether you're hired or not, but I think it just helps you be more comfortable in the role. But yeah, I definitely suggest merchandise. It's relatively, I don't want to say easy, but it's simple, and it's super fun.
And overall, would you suggest the CEP to others? What about your experience would lead you to suggest or discourage someone from participating in a cultural exchange program?
I would recommend it to anyone, to be honest. It was the best experience of my life, especially because it was my dream for so long. I know some people who, like my friend Paige, she just applied, like it wasn't like her dream or anything. She just said, oh, this would be fun, and then she also liked it. So it doesn't really necessarily have to be your dream to work at Disney. I think you would like gain something from it regardless. It was the hardest I worked ever in my whole life. I worked a lot and I worked hard. Because that's what Disney like requires from you, which as it should, because it's like the biggest amusement park in the world. I worked hard and I met so many people and I learned so much about myself through the working experience, but also through just like the social aspect. And the experience was amazing because I learned so much from my coords and my leaders, and I learned so much from my friends that I made. And I would recommend it just because it's, especially as like a younger person, it's like it was like my first time away from home, and I grew so much as a person being away from home and like being on my own. So I would recommend it because of the friends you make and like the work you do, and just the experience is fun as well, being at Disney every single day. So yeah.
I think it's difficult because there's so many different, like everyone has a different experience, right? When they're out there. I mean, like I know some people like term after 2 weeks, and some people, want to stay there forever, like me. So I mean, it's difficult. I think it's hard to recommend, but I feel like, one of the greatest parts about, working for Disney, I think what people kind of forget when they're going down there is like, it is still a job. Like you're going down as, be employed by a company and like work, right? Like you're not going down there for a vacation. I mean, like personally for me, it feels like a vacation when I'm down there because I'm having fun no matter what I'm doing, whether it's going to the parks, whether it's, working. That's because I love both my roles, but I mean, everybody's experience is different. I think, the program is kind of like 50-50, it's half working, half, like socializing with other people, like meeting so many people from all around the world. I mean, there's people there from like Europe, like everywhere. I know Australians, like so many different people, right? So I mean, there's such a good opportunity to go meet new people and like experience different kinds of people, right? And I think that's a really big part of it for me. I love meeting all these different kinds of people, and people, like I probably would never really meet in my regular life, right? Because we all kind of just locate to this one crazy place and just have a great summer together. So I think that's a really great selling point to go there. I mean, just to be able to meet people. And of course, if you want to, gain valuable experience, working for a company like Disney, that's such a great opportunity to do it as well. And it's such a good experience just go and just like enjoy yourself, just like have an amazing summer and just like be around amazing people and work a job that like is so iconic. Because like, wearing the costumes and the name tag, I think that's like such like a, like just wearing a name tag, I felt like, oh my God, like I feel so like, I know it's like kind of like glorified. They want to feel glorified. Like they want you to feel important. But like if you feel it personally, and like, it's valid. So I think it's definitely just a great experience just to go and just to have a great time and just be around amazing people and just to meet different kinds of people and just to work at a job that, you may not get to work in your regular life. Like I don't know where else you could be like a character attendant or like work at an attraction like that. I mean, like, and Disney's so good at just like implementing new people. I mean, there's always like, outliers, but like implementing new people into the process and just like, getting them really accustomed to their role, I think is a really big strength of working there. So yeah, so I would say, I think just going with an open mind, don't have like the highest expectations because they may not be met, but just going for an open mind and like decent expectations, just think that you're going to enjoy yourself. And I think if you do that, you will more than likely be fine. I think just it's mostly just about your mindset, and it's also you're in Florida working for Disney and you're going to the parks for free. Like not many people get to do that. So I think it's a very a very good program just to go and just enjoy yourself and just have fun. And that's all it's about. Have fun, but do your job and don't mess up.
It was like the best summer of my life. I would absolutely recommend it. It changed my life. It taught me a lot about myself, and I think really improved my like self-confidence and growth as a person, knowing that I can like be independent. And there's hard days like there are in any job, and just being able to get through them makes you feel that much better. I think as much as I would suggest other people to sign up, I think like just like any job, it isn't necessarily for everybody. So I think you need to kind of know yourself well. as much you are there to work, so it's not just loving Disney. Like obviously that's a huge part of it, but it's not for everyone. Like you kind of want to know what you're signing up for. It's a really tight, strict schedule. Usually like when you get your shifts, those are your shifts. You can't like, so you got to be willing to put in the work, not miss days. You know, the housing can be expensive. Like there's a lot of expenses associated with it. It's definitely, and it's an amazing experience, but I'd say it is more for the experience. So you got to kind of be able to be adaptable and independent and responsible with the work. So I would recommend it to almost everybody, but I do think you need to know yourself. But I feel like if you're someone watching this video, you probably already have decided you want to do it and know you can do it. So, but I would definitely suggest. I think it's great, and I think a lot of it's something that benefits a lot of people. I mean, I met amazing friends, and there's so many upsides, and I think it's an experience I wish everyone could have. Honestly, it's so great.
I would 100% recommend it to anybody who's considering it, especially at the time and point you would be in life for the most part to do the cultural exchange program. Being students, take those risks. It's a phenomenal thing. It looks great on resumes as well. You worked for one of the most world-renowned companies in the world that's known for their customer service abilities and being able to have those guest relations and guest experiences. So it's definitely something that helps you out further in life, but it's just so much fun. Like I said, you meet people from all over the world. There's people that I still talk to every day. I go and see them all the time. And it's just something I'll never forget, probably for the rest of my life. It was just such a great memory to have.
Oh goodness, yes. I absolutely would recommend it. It was, best year of my life to date. Like I had the most incredible time, both with the job and all of the fun perks with it, all the adventures I got to have and the people I met. It was wonderful. I think it came at a really good point in my life because I did it in between my undergrad and my grad school for Teachers College. And it was a really nice break for me to be able to go. So I will say, like, a year is a long time. It's a big commitment. So I think that's why sometimes people look at the CRP and think it's a little bit daunting. But if it fits in your schedule for life, or if it's something you really want to do, I say go for it. Like, don't, even if you're so busy or you're worried about school or anything, like if this is something that's important to you, you got to do it because it's so wonderful and you never want to wonder what if. And I think it's such an incredible experience and the memories you will make are so worth it. Yeah, I just could talk about it forever. I loved my program so much and I'm so happy to be able to talk about it with you. And I hope if anyone who's wanting to do the program, this is your sign. Just go for it. It's just wonderful.
Do you have any further Disney program plans ahead of you coming up?
I hope. I have an interview on January 9th for next summer. So I hope that I get in. And then maybe CRP in the future, if that's what my future entails. But I'm really grateful for the summer I did have. It went by super fast. So like, savor every moment if you do the program.
CRP. I honestly, I applied for the CRP back in June of last year. Yeah, I'm very excited. I think for me, I always wanted to do the CRP, but I want to have at least 2 CEPs under my belt first, because I think the CRP, it's a year-long commitment. That is a year of your life, which I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long of a time, but it's a year of your life still. Like you got to live there for a year, you got to survive for a year. So I want to, save up a lot and to have a lot of experience actually working at Disney. So when I go, because I know when I go to work at the Canadian Pavilion at Epcot, not only have I been there many times, but I'm very familiar with the Disney training process and traditions. But yeah, I'm very familiar with the whole workforce behind the magic, right? I guess that's a good slogan. So I am very accustomed to how that's going to go, right? So, and knowing that I work at the Emporium, I feel very confident that I can handle Epcot food and beverage. Very exciting. I will be in Epcot in June, so catch me there if you're there. I'm excited for the costume. That's what I'm excited for. So we'll see. but yeah, it's gonna be great. I mean, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Oh gosh, okay, I don't want to jinx it, so I'm gonna knock on wood. But so I did reapply to do the cultural exchange program for summer 2024. And I just last night got my email to book my interview. So in about 2 weeks, I have an interview for that. So I'm very excited and very hopeful to get to go back and do it again because I loved it so much. I'm definitely cautiously optimistic.
I have applied for the 2024 Cultural Exchange Program, so I have my interview coming up in January. And yeah, we will go from there. Hopefully, everything goes according to plan.
I'd really like to do the CEP someday, and I'd love to do merch again, just because I loved it so much. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll work out.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on your experience? Anything you felt like you didn't get to talk about that would be important?
Also, don't I also would say don't and I have people in mind is like when people act like it's like, and it is a really big important program, and it is a great opportunity, and it's so you should be thankful to be down there, absolutely. But like, don't act like the recruiters are like, some like big people who you have to like really impress. Like they're just people just like you. Like just talk to them like normal people when you're at your interview. I think that's so important. Just talk to them like normally, right? Like just be casual with them, give them like like good answers. Don't be like super professional and like so like stuck up. Just be like free and like casual with them, and they have to like you to to pick you, right? Especially I think this year, because from what I'm hearing, it's pretty tough. So just put your best foot forward, but like in a professional way, but also like in a casual way. And just be nice with them and just let them know who you are and why you want to do the program, and just like be open and kind of not vulnerable, but just show them your personality a little bit, right? I think that's also really important because they want to have people down there who are going to engage with guests and be engaging and have a smile on their face and like put their best foot forward. And they want personalities who are going to really hype up the experience, right? And make the guests feel like super magical about being there, right? So you have to have like a magical personality. I think my personality is very just like, not always that magical. I can be pretty crazy sometimes, but when you're working, it should be super magical, right? So I think that's also really important to, just make sure that you have the personality that is, or at least have a personality while you're working or while you're in your interview that shows that you can, do the job and you can be great.
To quickly add to your point, I think initiative is a big word that you need to have, because there's a lot of people who are really shy. There's people who are easily outgoing. You have to have initiative, because people will tell you what to do, but the reality is when you're on register and it's a huge massive chaos, you just have to sometimes do what you're gonna do and hope it's right and just get it done.
And that's, I want to go off that point for a second, because I think initiative, like you said, it's very important. And I think it depends what role you're at, but and some require more than others. But at the Emporium, for example, or any like let's say like you're at Creations or any like big store or Disney Springs, what's it called, World of Disney. When you're there, right, like there's so many people there at once, right? So I feel like if there's like for example, when I was on Zone 6 at register at the Emporium one night after fireworks, 3 out of the 4 registers there, or 5 registers, had no cash left. We had no change. So we were at Fireworks Rush. If you wanted to pay cash, we had a separate cash line. See, there's no cord there to be like, okay, you do this, you do that. Like you have to kind of be your own boss in that way, right? So you have to be able to take the initiative and kind of like, I was controlling all 5 of those registers. Everybody else, not to be rude, was clueless. So it's like, okay, these are closed because we can't do cash right now. So only electronic. Your cash, like you have to like kind of just figure it out, right? So I mean, take initiative, and like that's why I think that's where it starts from, in the chats or in the Facebook groups or whatever. Just being your own person and putting yourself out there, because when you're drowning out World of Disney, when there's a big rush and someone wants a refund and this person wants to do a exchange or blah 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 blah, no one's to be there to help you. You have to do it yourself. You can't just call a cord every single time you need help on something that's very simple you should know how to do, right? So I mean, it's taking initiative is very important, and I think that is such a good point you just made, because I think people apply because it's Disney and they want to go to parks for free, they want to have a great time, which is a totally valid reason to apply, but that's why I applied. But it's also because you have to be able to know like how to work as well. Like I think when you're working at a place like Disney, it's really important just be as like, I think everybody there like is just you should be super nice. I mean, like, it's Disney World. Like, you're not like, I can't imagine someone going to work there who's like a mean-spirited person who wants to, like, you know, hurt people. You know, just be a nice person. Just be kind, and you will have a great experience.
I think the one thing, I will say as well, the CRP, another thing for merch that's different about it is you can't trade locations. That's a really cool thing about the CEP and why I'd love to do it. I loved seeing all of your stories about all the different locations that you worked. I think that's amazing. I'm sure you learned so much. So yeah, that's definitely something I would like to do one day. But you can't do that with the CRP. You can only work in the pavilion in your role. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. Some cast members don't really know that when they get there, and then they're a little disappointed. I was never disappointed by that because I love the Canada Pavilion so much, but just keep that in mind if you're wanting merch in Canada because you want to trade. Doesn't work like that because we're culture representative. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing. The program is so high speed, like it's go, go, go constantly. Every day you're either working and then going to a park, or going to a park before you work, and then days off you're going to a park. So it's like really go, go, go. And that's like can be tiring and taxing on your mental health after a while, even though it's so like fun. So I would definitely just say, like, try to take time for yourself, especially when you are extremely tired or your mental health is like struggling on your program. Like some days, especially near the end of my program, I just had to come home from work at 4 and just chill for the rest of the night instead of going to a park, because I was so tired and I didn't want to like push myself further, because I would like, it would just not be good for my mental health. So my main message, I guess I'm trying to say, is just make sure you're taking time for yourself on your program, because it is so like so much adrenaline. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we constantly were doing stuff, which is so fun, especially when you get home, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I to do? Because we were so busy all the time and like constantly doing stuff. But just take time for yourself is what I'm trying to say, and make sure you prioritize your mental health. Yeah, that's all I'm trying to say, I guess.
Well, friends, that is it for today's video. I once again just want to thank Austen, Laura, Milana, Caden, and Maria for all participating. They give just such phenomenal answers and great experiences to share with all of you. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you want more content from me in the future, you can subscribe. I'm very excited to be going on the 2024 Cultural Exchange Program. I'll be doing my best to vlog some of my experiences and share some more content. You can obviously get content from subscribing here on my YouTube channel, but you can also follow me on Instagram at Ashley Smashley. All the best to you if you are a future participant or if you are an interested participant. I hope that a Disney program is in your future, and I hope that this video has allowed you to learn a little bit more about the program. All the best. Bye.